Intros. What culture videos? Lists. Great stuff, everyone. Fun, having fun. Yeah, so making shit up sometimes doesn't go well, but much like my CV, can look pretty awesome if you bullshit hard enough. So let's take a look at some films that went off script but not off-piste. With this in mind, I'm Jules from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 movies that made it up as they went along, but were awesome anyway. Number 8, Edge of Tomorrow. Given how terrible the title is, even if it's much better than Live, Die, Repeat, come on, we're not Brock Lesnar's marketing team, the film is actually a good laugh, mixing sci-fi with Groundhog Day and sprinkling in Tom Cruise for good measure. Apparently, the film began production in 2012, though, with only a rough outline of its story and the action sequences, which, as one of the producers stated, wasn't the most calm-inducing experience. While it was based loosely on the Japanese book All You Need Is Kill, another great title there, Doug Liman just went in all gung-ho and pieced things together as the filming went on. Glad he did though, because it's actually a really rather decent movie. Number 7, Jaws. The story of Jaws production is a notorious one already, what with the malfunctioning and surprisingly expensive fake shark that hilariously didn't work in water, yet that wasn't the only issue. As well as making life difficult by insisting that they all film on the open ocean, Spielberg started off from the even more difficult point of not actually having completed a script or complete his cast choice. He essentially just made it up as he went along. The production went out of control, taking 159 days instead of the planned 55, but the delays and shark errors allowed the script to be refined and finished and resulted in one of the single greatest monster movies ever made. Number 6, Men in Black 3. Now, when I use the word awesome, I really mean when talking about Men in Black 3 that it wasn't the skip fire that it should have been. When the trilogy closer got greenlit, Barry Sonnenfeld only had half a finished script, and that was just the beginning. When shooting took a break for Christmas in 2010, it wasn't until April 2011 that work actually started again, and so much had changed between these points. Luckily, the result of such a lengthy time meant that the kinks were worked out in the script, and we ended up with a silly but enjoyable flick and easily the most fun thing that Will Smith has done in a long old while. What happened, Will? Why are you so sad? Is it because you've had your son who looks like he's sucking fun out of every room like a goddamn vacuum? Not the point, moving on. Number 5, Lawrence of Arabia. David Lean and Columbia Pictures had been so interested in making this film that by the time they got the go-ahead, they simply charged forward without waiting for a script to, be finished. And when it came to the original script, it was scrapped and completely redone. In total, 3 people worked on the script, and it ended up being a hodgepodge of all of them. And yet this was a case where none of the broth was spilled, despite there being too many cooks. The final film is still considered a masterpiece, and it was nominated for 10 Oscars, including Best Adapted Screenplay, impressively, winning 7 of them, and it's worth every single one. Number 4, Apocalypse Now. Francis Ford Coppola's sort of adaptation of Heart of Darkness is pretty much the golden standard on how not to make a film. It started out with good intentions, but a giant storm set things back very quickly. Then Coppola fired his leading actor after 2 weeks of filming, then brought in a notoriously troublesome Marlon Brando for a king's ransom. And then generally went through the list of everything you don't want to happen on set, including Martin Sheen having a heart attack that he played off as heat stroke so the film's financing wasn't pulled. It's remarkable that it's even in existence, let alone how bloody great it is. Plus the best bit, much like when your mum is moaning like a moose from all the toys she shoved up her chuff, that the ending hadn't even been inserted yet. That's my one per list. Coppola was writing as he went along and just simply improvised the ending because Brando was too fat to film the ending as originally written. Hilarious. Brilliant. Number 3, Casablanca. Lots of people agree that Casablanca is among the greatest films ever made, which makes it somewhat astonishing that Warner Brothers weren't actually that hyped about it when it went into production. They just saw it as another war film. The script was only half finished when the filming began. It was then shot in sequence to allow the screenwriters time to actually finish writing it as they shot it. Impressively, that didn't hold the film back at all, as it picked up 8 Academy Award nominations and won 3, including Best Film. Number 2, Mission Impossible Fallout. If you've watched the 6th Mission Impossible movie, you will have no doubt been bowled over by the incredible action sequences and stunts. With those elements taken care of so well, the story and plot intricacies weren't really all that important. And that was actually pretty handy for the director, who admitted that he only had 33 pages of script when he began filming, and this was because, well, he'd not actually thought of the plot. But the lack of script gave Tom Cruise more freedom to experiment with their sequences, which resulted in it being one of the most stunning action movies of the past couple of decades. And number 1, Iron Man. Given all the things working against it, the first Iron Man really shouldn't have worked. It was made by a fledgling studio focused on a supposedly B-list superhero, and the star had been blacklisted for his behaviour in the past. In short, Jon Favreau had his work cut out, which was made all the more difficult by his lack of a complete script. According to Jeff Bridges, the film went into production with no more than an outline as the studio rushed into production to hit their planned release date. That's not the strong foundation that you expect success to be built on, and yet the script issues didn't stand in its way, and it remains the fuse that ignited the whole MCU. Top lads.